Okay, we're live. Hi, Tamara. I'm here with Tamara Samilenko, or you can call her T. And today we're going to talk a little bit about Tamara's book. So hold your book up. So that's the book, Our Transformative Journey, an integrative, a gift of healing to the world, and an integrative healing health coach collaboration. And it was, I think, put together by who?
By Karen Moore. She is one of our co-authors. We were all students of the March 2019 class of Institute of Integrative Nutrition, kick-ass class. And she came up with the idea. And she reached out to us and said, who wants in on this situation? Who would like in? She had an idea. She had an agenda. She was already a published author. She was a very well-known wedding planner in Savannah, Georgia. She was like award-winning year after year, and she had written a book or two actually about wedding planning. And she saw this idea, and she was like, let's get together and write about our story of like, we each have some sort of health or wellness story or else we wouldn't be here, which I think is normal in the health industry. Most people come in, or wellness industry, most people come in because they had their own story or a story of a loved one that touched them, and they were like, you know what, I want to get back, I want to help.
Yeah.
So we all chimed in. And can I tell a funny story?
Yeah, of course.
In September, I was in New Jersey at the place I just was telling you about in Seaside Park, and my girlfriend's son and his friend came back from the boardwalk. They're like, we just saw a psychic. Like, a psychic? You went to a psychic? You spent your arcade money on a psychic at the boardwalk? They're 15-year-old boys, right? So we listened to the recording of both of them, and my friend who's a psychic, she and I kind of looked, and we were really like into this one woman named Anna. So the next day we kind of snuck off on our own, and we went and found Anna, and for $10 she gave me a reading. I forgot if it was palm or whatnot. So the reading was over, it was fine. And then she's like, let's just keep talking. I'm like, oh, here's where she's going to try and sucker me out of some money, right? On the board, just with the gypsy outfit, total stereotypical booth, the crystal ball, everything. So then she's like, let's keep talking. There's some interesting stuff. And I'm like, what? What's up, Anna? She's like, what is this book? And I'm like, what book? Because there was no book then. This was September. And in my mind, I had come up with a title to a book. I don't know why, but I had just formulated it in that last few months. And I'm like, well, I have a title to a book that's like maybe in the future. She's like, no, this thing is happening really soon, and it's going to be to help people. And I'm like, no, Anna, you've been out in the sun on the boardwalk too long. There's no book. So when I was there 2 weekends ago, that was September. Now it's 2 weekends ago was Memorial Day, May, and I'm like, I have the book. I have to go find Anna. So I went trolling up and down the boardwalk by myself, looking for Anna, the psychic with the booth. Couldn't find her anywhere. It's like she never existed. Was Googling, nothing came up. But there's a new booth that looks brand new, and it's a CBD oil booth. And I'm like, oh man, I think they got her. I think they took over Anna. They pushed her out. So I was upset that I just thought that was interesting because she was like, no, it's coming soon. I was like,
wow, that's really
I know.
cool. Yeah, that's a really cool story. That's awesome. And she only charged $10.
Yep, she didn't ask me for any more money. I hung out. I played with her dog. It was great. I had the whole thing on recording, and she was really cool. It was really a fun. But you know when you hear something, you're like, wait a minute, something resonates with me. It sounds silly, but let's go hunt that woman down tomorrow and get a reading.
Awesome. That's such a good. Yeah. I love that story. So the woman Karen, she edited the book, and so it was her idea. And the book is basically, like you were saying, just a bunch of regular people that had health issues that ended up healing themselves and then putting themselves through the integrative nutrition. The integrative nutritional school, which is
integrative nutrition. That's correct.
Right, which is really interesting.
I'm sorry.
It's really interesting that you don't when you like it's obvious from your story when you start to heal yourself, you don't just like phone it in. You're like, I'm going to learn everything there is about this particular thing, you know, and it's obvious. So it was a theme throughout your story, starting with The meditation?
Yeah, I think when I went first on my like journey to Miami, I think, is that when it was most
Yeah,
evident?
when
As
that
a
started.
reader?
Right.
That was a big one. That was like I knew I needed to change my life, and I was dating my friend in sobriety at the time, and he was great. He was great. He was, I think, a rebound love, but whatever it was, he was perfect for me then, and helping me mend through another relationship that was a bad breakup. And I was stuck in a corporate job that, although the job was massively exciting, every day was great. I met so many interesting people and had great experiences, but it just wasn't me, and there was so much more that wanted to come out, and I felt like a canary stuck in a cage, and I just needed to figure out why I still wasn't feeling good and why I couldn't get more out of life, and
Mhm.
I used to go to Miami regularly, to South Beach. My family has a place, and I just did it differently. I did everything differently, and everything I read or listened to stuck, and everything made sense. Like if you had read Eckhart Tolle to me backwards, I would have been like, yes, I have now realized the key to life. Like it was just, I was like a sponge that week. It was incredible. But when you're ready, it happens. And I learned a lot. One thing that was tremendous that week was I found Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian spiritual um, practice of self-forgiveness. And that, I don't know if I talked about that in the book. I don't remember.
No, you
That was tremendous. I practiced that week. I read that book, or I listened to it, and a lot of Mark Nepo, and a lot of positive affirmations, no TV, which is always huge for me. It was always a big escape, and sunrises every morning. And that's when I realized the significance of sunrise, what it meant to me. And it was a really beautiful week. I never was the same. Like I always say, like after that week, if I was wearing like rain boots and went through a big muddy puddle, after that week, I never stayed stuck in that puddle. Like could always pull myself out a lot faster than
wow.
before. Like that's what that week felt to me.
That's
And
really cool.
yeah, and I came home and I just started meditating regularly, and I was like, well, how do you meditate? So I went on the computer, and I had always loved Deepak Chopra, so I started, doing mantra work, and just finding different things that resonate with me. But even today, I could never do the same thing over and over for my whole life. Like it
Right.
changed one week this, or even one day this, and then I'll move to something different. Or like I'll practice something for a couple months, and then I'll need to, I don't know if you're like that too, but I
Oh
can't,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
time,
The
so
really
that's when it all started.
one of the really interesting things is, so after this sort of like almost like a little spiritual awakening you had, pretty much.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Deepak Chopra, you actually went and got a job for him.
I did.
So
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, again, you like push this thing, like you're like, I'm not just gonna like do this, phone this in. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go work for Deepak Chopra.
Yeah.
Which I was
Well,
like,
living
what?
in California, yeah, living in Southern California, in San Diego, North County, specifically that area. Well, Southern California, my whole childhood that was a dream. As a young adult, and then it was like I honed in on San Diego, and then I found North County, and I was like, oh, I'm going to live there. And then I went for a visit, and I have one relative in California, and his wife took me around, and there were two places we went to that resonated with me right away.
Uh-huh.
And I filed sideways. Do you know what I mean by that? Filing sideways? I don't know. I don't know why you would, because it's such a weird thing. But you
No,
know when you
don't. Can you explain that?
do you know when you hear something or you go somewhere and there's like, wait, and your soul recognizes it, but you might not know that yet if you're not in touch with yourself. Like back then I didn't know that yet, but my soul recognized the place, the two places,
Uh-huh.
and I knew it was going to be of significance to me later. I just didn't know how. So I filed it sideways. I didn't put it in the front of the filing cabinet because it wasn't in my daily, and I didn't throw it in the back where I'd never see it again. I filed it sideways.
Okay, yeah, I've never heard that before, but that totally
I
makes sense.
made it up. I think because I made it up, but sometimes I'll ask people and they'll be like, yeah, I know what that means. Maybe they don't. Maybe they were just yesing me, which I can't stand. But that's another thing.
I've never heard of that. So
I did get,
but I mean, that doesn't mean
I
it's
mean, I made
not
it
a
up.
thing.
You could use it though.
I
It's
will.
good, right?
Yeah, filing it sideways for sure. I do that all the
Yeah.
time. I mean, we all do it. I think we file stuff sideways. So it's like we're putting
Yeah.
it. So when we're flipping through the files, we can't see it because it's filed. It's filed sideways.
It's not for our life at that point.
Right.
So it's sideways. It's next door. And then when our journey is ready for it, we just pull from it. And then once we pull from it, we're like, okay, I know this because I was there. I was introduced to this already. Now's the time. It's like a really fascinating thing that comes up. And I think the more work you do on yourself, like I find for me, the more that'll happen. Like I'll meet somebody and I'll be like, okay, this isn't for now, but there's something about this that's going to circle back. I'm filing it. My soul files it sideways. I don't purposely do it, but it happens that way. And then when the time is right, it comes back.
Right. So I wanted to quickly, let's just go over your background. So basically you were, it sounds like, I mean, you sort of like you were kind of destructive. That's what it sounds like to me throughout your life. And so you were self-medicating at a young age. You were, doing other self-destructive things that definitely were not like an expression of self-love, that's for sure. And people that want to know more about that can read your story, but you have this relationship, it feels like throughout your story, with light. So, and so you say something like, and you have like, you're very functioning. So that's clear in the story that you're super functioning. You have like a job that you really like, but there's this juxtaposition in you. It's like you're sort of, what you're presenting and what's going on inside are two different things. And I think that's really common right now for, a lot of people, like especially young people that are living in New York. They're like, they think they're living the dream, but they're miserable. And, they're doing what you did, smoking, drinking, depressed. And then they go to a doctor and get medication and they're just like spinning their wheels, and nothing seems to be, ever right. And then you keep having this dream that you're I guess this is a reoccurring dream throughout your life, that you're looking for sunshine. And the dream is this beach scene and you feel like you didn't get enough light, and you wake up feeling anxious because you didn't get enough light. And I thought that was really interesting because there's like, throughout your story, even though there's this like a lot of pain, there's this a lot of playfulness. You could tell that you're like this really light-spirited person, and what you're describing yourself, as just like, cutting yourself and drinking, it just doesn't match up, It's like, wow, that really doesn't match up. And you say, at one point you say you envisioned swallowing the sun, that it gave you a yummy, warm, loving tickle in your tummy. And I was like, wow, that's so beautiful. It really is. And it's like, I can imagine you were seeking that. You wanted more of that, but yet you were sort of like just the self-destructive, you had no idea why you were doing what you were doing. So you were yearning for the light. You were like wanting this light. Sure. So you spent these years, going in that whole scene, and then you get sober, and then you spend years sober, which is a great thing, and then you get medicated.
Yeah, I got medicated. I actually medicated before I got sober.
Okay, shortly before, right? Okay.
Yeah, about a year, and that's when it was horrendous. Like the fact that I made it through there alive was horrendous. I was waking up after blackouts, piecing together what happened, and waking up, and my body was just ripped up. And I put myself on punishment a lot because I couldn't trust myself to leave. So I'd say I'd lock myself in. I'd call it punishment. And, so I'd clean or do some project at home. I was really good at doing projects at home. And then I wouldn't drink, I would say. And then one time I could treat myself to a nice glass of wine with dinner. And it just went to a place that I woke up the next day and my body was like ripped open, and I had a memory of being in a police car, and I was in my pajamas, and there was a lot more wine in my apartment, spilled all over, and I was still in the same pajamas, and it was really horrible. But there was a lot of those types of things. But I was already on medication, so the blackouts on that medication was horrendous.
So what was your diagnosis? Do you remember?
Yeah, he said that I was depressed. It was my general doctor. He had tried. I have to give it to him. He had tried. He was calling me on Sundays. Answer the phone, Tamara. It's going to be fine. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And he would do blood test upon blood test. I'm like, I'm sure it's mono or lupus or something that makes me tired, you know?
Right.
And he's like, no, you have the D word is another
Right.
title of a chapter. And I'm like, I can't have the D word. Look, I have decent clothes. I have an apartment in the city. I have a good job. I have a loving family. I have, some good friends. That can't be, like I'm the happy-go-lucky girl. I'm the party girl. There's no way I have the D word. So after a while, I was so miserable. I'm like, I'll accept the D word and go on this medication. When I was younger, I didn't take any medication. And then in my 20s and 30s, I was like, give me whatever. Give me everything. Everything.
Right.
And I'd had it. And I was like, just give it to me. If it'll be the magic pill, then I'll do it. And then I got sober. And then, after a while, I was like, okay, but there has to be more. And why am I still depressed? And why am I still heavily fatigued? And why does my body hurt so much? Like, what's going on,
Uh-huh.
And I went to so many doctors, Rose, like so many. And then I learned so much about the chronic fatigue syndrome. And I was working with the CFS, and they diagnosed me over the email. They're like, absolutely, you have chronic fatigue. Come join us for $5,000 and we will fix you. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, this can't be like this. And I, sought energy workers and naturopaths and just everything, really. And then the spiritual awakening. And then it was like, you know what, I have to figure out how to do this myself. And then at a point, I knew I had to get off the meds, but I couldn't find anybody to support me. And I just didn't know how. And then that's when I found the work of Dr. Kelly Brogan. I read her book first. And I was crying. I was listening to it in my commute, and I was just weeping tears. I'm like, here's this person, this scientist, because I need to hear from a scientist.
Okay.
And she didn't dumb down for us, which I thought was great. I mean, now in hindsight, I look back, she probably did a little bit, but she didn't. I love that she didn't dumb down the science. I love that. I was brought up a scientist. I was also a believer in the afterlife from like age of 5, but I was also a science mind. I'm an anthropologist at heart. Like I need to see things,
Mm-hmm.
And so her work really floored me. Like I was like, that's it. That's where it's going to happen. This is my work right now. And then one thing happened, and I was able to take that Omega workshop weekend with her and Swarn Paul and
You did. You took that.
Nancy Boone. I didn't meet Nancy, but she was there. But I was there, and it was my birthday weekend, and then the program started that Monday. So I was like, let me go on this retreat, because when am I ever going to be ramped up enough to quit coffee and like do all this stuff, except right after being with her. So that's what I did, and my life has changed. It's never been the same. Right. And then it was on to nutrition school and learning more, and like, okay, now how do I give back? Like, how do I?
Well, when you first, so did you do VMR? Is that what you did?
Yeah, I was with the October 1st, 2017 family there.
Okay.
I was in that group, and it was that weekend prior to that she had the workshop at Omega, and I met some really, really good people. It was great. It was really great, and it was my introduction to Kundalini yoga, as well.
Oh, right. Yeah. So when you first did that program, is that the first time you changed your diet ever? Like that?
I had been trying to cut gluten and sugar. I knew that gluten and sugar had to go for years. And when I got there that weekend, I made this pronouncement. I'm like, I'm the girl who quit drinking, drugs, cigarettes, shitty guys, but I could not do the sugar and gluten.
Right.
So, and I had tried so many times and I just couldn't do it. So that was the platform I needed for that.
Right.
Now I'm perfect.
And then did you notice like did you notice a change in your mood?
Yeah, well, I was one of the ones that went through that very, very rough detox. I was like immobile on week 2 and 3, and I had just moved into my apartment. My girlfriend came over. She's like, what the hell's going on here? She's like, you haven't unpacked one box, which is not like me. I'm a nester. Like, I like my things up and around, and I like to be surrounded by my stuff. And she's like, what are you doing? Who is this which doctor you're working with. Like, why are you feeling worse? Broke out with these horrible rashes, couldn't move, couldn't think. And I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm dying. I'm like, it's all part of it. It's fine. I'm detoxing. And she stayed until so many of the boxes she insisted. She slept over. She was like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm like, just, that's
Wow.
fine. You've done great. Thank you so much. She's like, fuck you. I'm not going anywhere. Cook for me. And, but that's what friends are for, God bless. I meet
Yeah.
a lot of people in the 12-step program that didn't have girlfriends growing up. I met her in college. Another psychic story, but we'll save that one for next time. But she's been a blessing, and I wasn't always great to her either at the end of the drinking time. So I'm blessed with.
Right. So do you actually had that severe of a withdrawal from just coming off gluten and sugar?
I think so, yeah. Like
Wow.
I went through that. I was posting constantly, like, am I dying? Am I dying? And you guys were great. And I really went through that flu-like, a lot of pain,
Yeah.
ashes. It was really coming through.
Wow.
And I had already known, like I had already cut dairy out a while ago. Once in a blue moon, if I didn't have something for my coffee, I'd use a creamer. But I had already done dairy for almost full blown. And sugar, it's not like I was wolfing down candy bars and stuff, but it was poor. It was, I think, in the form of the carbs.
Oh,
But
sugar
again,
and those types of foods are highly addictive. I mean, they're like a drug. They really are. I mean,
horrendous. It's sin. These people should be locked up.
I know.
These companies, the way they market this stuff to the kids,
Oh God.
this should be. It is a crime, really. It's disgusting. I mean, they're literally poisoning our entire society to keep perpetuating this insane healthcare system. Not all of it is insane, but it is insane, really.
Yeah,
So,
it's pretty insane. I mean, even think about breakfast food. It's usually like a muffin or a giant piece of like date nut bread or banana. It's like sugar, flour, and I mean, it's like the worst thing that you could possibly put in your body is a muffin.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much
totally digging those smoothies. Like I was like, wow, because I'm not one to do anything the same every day. But I was like, I really like this smoothie. I tried to take the weekends off from them because I thought it might be too much, but I can't believe how satiated I felt from those on a regular basis. Like that was pretty amazing.
Yeah. So the funny thing, and you mentioned this in the story, and your story is when you got sober, you kind of switched drugs to this sort of like this carb, like sugar and coffee, and
oh yeah, well,
it's really common in AA. It's like so when you go to an AA meeting here in Jersey, there's like the coffee, and a giant pile of donuts, and it's like. At the worst
and
thing
when I got there,
alcoholic. So
when I got to the rehab, which is a whole nother thing, but there was one woman, she looked like a counselor because she had like her sweatpants were too tight and pulled up way too high, and she was like bossing everybody around. I'm like, okay, she must work here. She was a patient. Her story was awesome, but they were like, I was like feeling anxious the first night, and I'm like, how am I going to do lockdown at 11 o'clock? I smoke all night. Like I need to get up and have a cigarette every time. I was never a sleeper. Like I just keep waking up, even though I need to be in bed a lot, but I don't sleep well. And back by then I was up puffing all night. And I'm like, how can I be in lockdown? How is it? They're like, just calm down, have a piece of cake and some coffee. And I'm like, but I'm not a really big cake eater. It'll make you feel better. It'll make you feel better. Just like my grandmother used to do to me when I was little. Oh, it'll come some ice cream. She used to call it, do you want some, cheap chocolate creme ice? I'm like, all right, I just want some cheap ice cream. She'd be like, come sit on my lap and I'll give you some cheap chocolate creme ice. And she'd make me feel good and yummy. And
that is so funny.
It was good. It was good. And then she fed us pierogies packed with, dough and blints for breakfast.
Those are so good.
Yeah. And now I live in heart of little Ukrainian community here on 7th Street. I went to pick up stuff for my parents at the meat market because I had breakfast there today. And the butcher's like, try this cheese, eat this. He made me a sandwich. I'm like, can't I just go home? And he lives in the building with me. It's just insane. Insane.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's such a sweet story.
But
You're
going back to your point, yes. So I picked up like this insane coffee habit. I was drinking coffee all day, all night, and the cookies and the this and the that. First I gained weight, but then I just wasn't, I was riding the high of being newly sober, and I made like 90 friends in the first 6 months, like literally. And then I was helping to plan their trips because we have a really strong AA community in Manhattan.
right.
And we do a lot of big trips. And that, of course, I'm an event planner I'm actually a sheep herder in my past life. I like to tell people where to go and what to do. Like that, I'm good at.
Yeah.
So planning these trips and stuff was great. And it enabled me to get to know people and, and all that, and be in the social scene, and eat cookies with other people. But then, then you start working on yourself. Then the work comes, and then you really start digging
Yeah.
down and digging deep. And I was like, wow, I've been living somebody else's life my whole life. Like, this isn't the life of me. Who
Right.
is that person? Who is that buttoned up girl living in corporate America when the girl inside who wants to eat the sun to feel the tickle in her belly doesn't
Right.
want anything to do with that, and,
Yeah. So
and then
let's talk about the light a little bit. So
okay.
now you're okay. So I want to talk about your website. Your website first. It's called soulguide.com, and it's SOL as in the sun, guide guide.com, and it's like so. Tamara, tell us what you do.
So the Soul Guide, which I launched earlier this year, is I'm working as an integrative nutrition health coach, but I also became a certified light therapist. And light it used to be called LLLT, low level laser therapy, or some people call it red light therapy, but now it's the formal term now is photobiomodulation or light therapy. And it's something that was created in the 60s. They brought red light on these space shuttles to grow plants for the astronauts. Then they started realizing all these benefits to light. So what light is under the sun's rays, we have this wide spectrum of light. And we take, for healing purposes, we take the blue light, the red light, and the infrared light. Now they're starting to incorporate green, et cetera, but we won't go into the green light. And each wavelength of light has a certain wavelength and a certain penetration into our body, and it provides certain healing. And it's on each wavelength has its own frequency as well. And you can look at light therapy in two ways. You can look at it as vibrational medicine, the energy part of it, and knowing that if you can understand that each like organ and each group of cells that form like a part of you vibrate on a particular frequency. And basically when we go into dis-ease, those things are not functioning on their proper frequency. Mm-hmm. So light helps in that sense to bring frequency back to that cell, back to those group of cells, to the organs, to the inflamed area, etc. That's one way to look at it. And then there's the physical way to look at it. You go back to photosynthesis, and that's what light is. It's literally providing the light in order to create energy in your body so it can heal itself, restore, grow, etc. So it's basic biology class, photosynthesis. And it works on the mitochondria is found in almost every cell in our body. It's like the brain of each cell. And when the light hits the photoreceptors, it releases nitric oxide. And that release of nitric oxide creates this thing called ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and that creates the energy. So when we can energize each cell in our body, and it also creates vasodilation so that you can it opens up your blood cells so you can bring more energy up to your targeted areas. So when we can create more energy in each cell and bring oxygen to where we're tuning into, the healing happens automatically after that. And this tool that I use was cleared and approved by the FDA to increase circulation, decrease pain, and decrease inflammation. It's been cleared by the FDA for a little while now, And light therapy has been used for about 20 years, but it's finally starting to make its way to mainstream. There's different companies out there, and the reason I chose Inlight was because I like that you wrap it on you. I like it on me. I like it like, oh, you have elbow issues. Let's light up your elbow, and let's light up, you know, the nerve endings where the elbow nerves enter your spinal cord. Let's light that up. Like, I like to be hands-on. There's different approaches to it, but that's what I like. And I'm going to show you my lights. Can I show you?
I would love to see your lights.
Hopefully, maybe Sheila's watching. She's seen them.
So you were telling me before the call that this is now being used for brain injury in sports.
I'm going to show you the NFL. It was brought to the NFL by a former player, to help with concussion.
Okay.
And it's absolutely been proven that red light and infrared light helps to post-concussion. So they're using that there. And also veterans are using it for PTSD. It's becoming like a healing modality for PTSD. So I'd like to use it for, you know, I'd like to go back to my rehabs and help the people that are trying to get through stuff.
Right. Well, PTSD, I mean, is very common in you know, alcohol, any sort of anybody addicted probably has PTSD.
For sure.
And then also, you know, you were saying that you used it to taper off of trazodone?
Yep. No, Cymbalta.
Cymbalta
first. Yeah, Kelly had mentioned to taper off Cymbalta first and then the trazodone. How do I look, by the way?
You look really cute.
Good.
You do.
So this is the helmet that I use, and then these are the pad systems, and these are, I don't know what it looks like on the computer. It's probably a bit much. This is a tricolored pad, so it has blue wavelengths of light, red light, and also infrared. And infrared is invisible to our eyes. We can't see it in the spectrum. And then this is red and infrared. And then I also have an eye mask that goes, this I love meditating with this and this. And it's a 20-minute system. And you can use it to target the pain specifically where the pain is, plus, like I said, the actual where the nerves hit the spinal cord.
Yeah.
And so when I started using them daily in January. And in January, I was hit with some wild personal stuff. And I was like, wow, how am I going to get through this? And I was trying to finish writing the book. And I started playing with the lights, and I was using the helmet every day. And I was meditating and praying. And I found a production level inside of me that I had never seen like that before. Like, I was like, wow. Like, I was seeing myself from across the room, pretty amazed at how much I was getting done and still showing up for my day job, for the family company, and still showing up for the writing and all the personal stuff that was going on. And at the same time, I was deep into my Cymbalta taper. So I was trying to do anything not to rock the boat during the taper, but you know, we make a plan and God laughs, right?
Right.
So it was coming up, and I also started taking a really good magnesium supplement. Sometime, I think that was more like March. But anyway, so I started sleeping better. My taper was, I'm knocking really hard on wood, because I think so far I'm now 10 weeks off of Cymbalta.
Really? You are 10 weeks off?
Yeah.
And oh my God, are you serious?
But I started in January of the year before.
Yeah, but so I mean, Cymbalta's really, really difficult.
I have to thank the people on Cymbalta Hurts Worse, the board.
My God, they're awesome, aren't they?
Without them, without their knowledge, I was like a wild person out in the world. Like, how do you taper off? It's a sick thing what happens to people on this particular medicine, and others, of course, as we know. But I could not believe the horror stories. And I was like, wow, how am I going to, you know? But I was also getting a lot of other support. I was in a really good psychodrama group with a loving, caring leader. And it got down, it was only 2 of us and the leader. So like it was intense, the work there. And I was seeing a therapist time to time until I just couldn't afford it anymore, and I still have my sponsor, who's my great friend, I have an incredible support group here. Incredible.
Good.
And then I found Vital Mind Reset. So I found all of you guys.
Right.
Posting like all the time for a really long time because of,
So have you, since you discontinued 10 weeks ago, you haven't had any severe?
No, and you know how this is stupid. I discontinued it about 4 days before going to Egypt with my mother for 10 days. Not smart, but I wanted to finish in March because March is such a big deal month for me. There's so many milestones that my last one was March 31st. I'm like, I'm just going to slip that in there. And my friends were like, really? You got to do that now? Even my mother, who I don't usually talk to about this stuff, she's like, you're going to do this now? And I was like, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to add one more great thing to March. So God bless. It's been great. It's been great, and I keep knocking on wood. I had rough times during the taper. I also use these beautiful. Did you see my one? I also use these gorgeous little torch lights. These are red, and I use these to light up acupuncture points.
No,
like
I did not see those.
I love these. I carry these everywhere. Like the girls at work will be like, Tamara, I have an earache coming on. No problem. Light up the ears, light up the carotid. Get it. Oh, when this sickness, did you guys get that sickness that lasts for 2 weeks?
I didn't get it. No, but
I got it. It hit really hard. Like within 6 hours, I was like on my knees. I had shivers, fever, which I never have. Couldn't breathe. And I lit up 20 minutes on each side. For the carotids, you have to do 20 minutes. Other than that, it's just like 45 minutes. I was the only one. I woke up, never had a problem with my throat again. Never. It was perfectly, like, this is so great. And then I kept my chest lit up, never hit my chest. My chest was fine. So, and I drank the juice and but I use this for the acupressure points. Like I'm learning how to, release allergies, and now I'm doing like this emotional circuit. So I'm going to try and work on myself more in depth with them, but I bring them everywhere. I pull them out on the subway in Egypt.
Awesome.
I'm the tour leader, had a migraine. I'm like, come over here, let me help you. Like I love them. I bring them everywhere.
And you believe that the lights helped you get through your Cymbalta withdrawal?
Yeah, I was using the Fisher Wallace at the end of the year for 6 weeks straight. For two, and I'm an addict, so sometimes I did it 3 times a day.
So the Fisher Wallace is it's an instrument that's supposed to help with depression. Is it?
Yes.
It sends electrical signals through the body, right?
You put them on your temples, these things, you put a headband on, and then they send these electrical impulses into your brain. Coincidentally, that's when I experienced the brain zaps. Some of you may have heard of brain zaps while you're tapering or while you're starting a new medication. And what that is like, it like literally feels like if somebody would put a wire, put it in a socket and just light up your head or part of your head. I had that continually for a week. Coincidentally, like how else would you explain it, right?
It feels like actually somebody has a rubber band and is like pulling it and letting it go, and it's like this electric bond, like this jolt. It feels like it's pretty intense. I cold turkeyed off Cymbalta.
What?
I cold turkeyed off Cymbalta.
I know you did. You had a wild.
Yeah, I did a 6-week rapid taper. It was just, basically
6 weeks.
6 weeks, yeah. So it's just basically a cold turkey.
You're a miracle you are literally a miracle. The fact that you're alive and functioning.
It was just
after what you've been through is.
I don't know how I even got through that. It was really. I mean, it was horrendous. It was like the most.
There was a higher plan for you. That's why.
Well, yeah, right. I know. So it was basically, and then I quit a benzo like right after that. Like so, I was like, because I felt okay at the end of because the actual Cymbalta withdrawal didn't hit me for like 6 weeks.
Oh shoot! What happened at the 6 week point?
I mean, just all hell broke loose.
That's when
I just fell apart. Yeah.
You didn't have that Facebook group, Cymbalta Hurts Worse. You didn't have that then.
No, there was. I didn't even. I mean, no. No, I was doing this
You didn't
all
have
from my
Facebook.
apartment. I had no one. I read Anatomy of an Epidemic, and I was like, I can't put another medication in my body. Not even one pill. Not even one. Not even a bead. I was like, I don't even want a bead in my body. I was like.
Right.
That's it. I'm done. 6 weeks. I think the whole thing between the Cymbalta, the other drugs, whatever else I was on, and the benzo took about 2 months.
But now knowing what you know now.
Oh
Would you go
God, I would have tapered for 2 years.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Just making sure. Okay, because
Yeah.
I talk to so many, and in the rooms, there's tons of people on meds,
Yeah.
and which I'm not going to talk anyone out of. It's not my place to do that. And even in my network here, that my close group, a lot of them are on meds. So when I started tapering, it was kind of like, we're here for you, but we're really glad to be on meds. And I'm like, that's fine. You guys,
Right.
this is your journey. This is mine. Like, I need to change my eating. But I always tell people, make sure you tell your doctor. People have to know. And I told my psychopharmacologist, but finally, when I came to her armed with all my network and my group support, and that I was in psychotherapy, and I told her about Kelly Brogan, she was like, you're finally ready. She's like, I'm supporting this. Not that I needed her support, but I still needed her to feed me my scripts.
Right.
And I wanted a professional to know what I was doing. I felt that was important, and I do respect her. I do.
Yeah.
I've been with her 13
Right.
years, and I needed to get that confirmation from her. It felt really good. I remember I cry a lot. So I cried walking down Central Park West. And I'm like, finally, she was like, you've been working so hard. She's like, and now look at this shit you came in here with my office. You got this, you got this, you got this. She's like, do it. Of course, she wanted me to taper and be done in 3 months. I'm like, I'm not going to do it your way. I've actually got that covered. But even that was hard. Reaching out to compound pharmacies. One of them was like, oh, yeah, we can do a liquid Cymbalta. I'm like, no, you can't. Click.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, this is even hard, And then I'm like, am I going to do the bead method? Am I going to do the weight method?
Right.
My own way.
Right. Like they don't even know what they're talking about.
I was like, how could you be a compound pharmacist?
No, it's
like you can't liquefy Cymbalta, But I screwed up the taper myself a couple of times, and I felt hard. And that's when VMR pulled me up. Sheila was banging on my door. She insisted on coming over. I'm like, I'm not seeing anybody. I'm dying. I'm fine. Just leave me alone. And she was like, hell no, and that's the type of support I found in Vital Mind Reset.
It's really, I mean, it's so
at each other,
Yeah, that the support in that program, and it's not from Kelly Brogan, it's from the other people in the program, is so important, and it's so useful and so helpful, and so it'll make a difference between, drinking or not. It really could. I mean, that's like how big of
I wouldn't have been able to. Yeah, I mean, to have a place where I can post pictures of my coffee enemas results, it's pretty amazing. You okay with that?
So funny. Oh my God.
In those early days, I was like, wait, is this normal? Can I show you guys? Like, I thank God, but she created the container, and but I learned about the power of community. It's funny because she's talking a lot about that, but I learned that when I went to California, and I fulfilled the dream of moving out there. Coming back is a different call, but that's when I first found the power of community. I found my tribe, and it was like, hi, Tamara, we've been waiting for you. Like, here's your chair. Like, there was a spot for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I met women, especially women, who were where I was at. And I was like, wow, I can grow with these people and like develop and the interest. And then I manifested some people say you don't manifest anything. Screw you. I manifested that shit. I got to work at the Chopra Center to live exactly where I wanted to live. Twice.
Uh-huh.
I got to learn how to surf. Like, who starts surfing at 40? I started yoga regularly and bike riding and hiking. I'd never been a hiker.
Right.
Got to go to Lake Tahoe with REI, the group REI, do a paddleboarding trip and then go horseback riding through the Sierra Nevadas. Horses are in my heart, so that was, and like, I forgot what I was talking about, but I love
Community.
life. Community, right. And those people are still very close to my heart. I just saw one of them was here the other day, and planning a trip back there soon. And but that was, I was like, wow, I never had this before, and my life changed dramatically. I
Yeah.
mean, I had besties, but this was a community, and the women that I met. One woman falls, 15 came up with a bucket of chicken noodle soup. Like, it was unbelievable. We were helping each other raise each other's babies, and these were married people. It was crazy. It
Right.
was insane. It was so beautiful. It was very special, very, very special.
Wow. Yeah, the power of community. It's very, very important. And I think it's missing that's a missing element out of a lot of people's lives. And you can, I mean, I know it's not the same like the community in person, especially with like through the AA groups and stuff. That's really
Yeah.
strong. But you can
If nothing else, the community, and especially
right.
when you're in that raw place, to have a community that knows what you've been through, like VMR,
Right.
like AA, like whatever, you know, like that is so intense. And like one of the authors experienced horrendous postpartum, and she was new to this country, just knew her husband. And she's like, wow, in my country, we all raise the babies together, the community. We eat together, we cook together. I would have a plethora of people to help me. She's like, and here I am all by myself, you know, and they want to medicate me. She's like, this is not normal. This type of living is not normal.
Right.
And it's true. We evolved living communally.
Yep.
You know, and you know, a lot, it's being talked about a lot these days, but you know, if I keep staying single, I'm single, I'm not married, but you know, and my girlfriends are all getting divorced now, and I'm like, let's go back to that idea that we had 25 years ago of living together. Like,
Yeah.
I always wanted to be alone. If I wasn't with a partner, I'm like, I'm living alone. I don't want a roommate. But now I'm like, you know what? There's something to that. There's something
Yeah.
to that, you know? Of course, our own master suites would be nice and share a kitchen, but there's something to that communal living where you share in the responsibilities and you share in the day-to-day.
Totally.
You know, New York's a lonely place. It's a hard, cold, lonely place.
It's
And
funny because
it's not easy to live alone.
no, it's funny because you're living in a building with hundreds of other apartments of people doing the same thing you're doing in the apartment, and nobody talks to each other.
Well, my neighbor likes to come in whenever she likes.
Oh, well, I mean, that's not very common.
She knows I'm home. I'm surprised she's not, you know, helping herself into my apartment in mid-sentence. So the Ukrainians have an issue with boundaries. That's a very ancestral thing. There's communal living, and then there's respecting boundaries.
Right. Well, I'm saying, like, as far as like, even though because I lived in Brooklyn, I had millions of neighbors, and no one really knew what was going on with me.
Right. You
Yeah.
could be murdering someone, and people don't want to care. That's part of like the beauty of living in this type of environment. Like, everybody sticks to themselves, you know.
Yeah, it's sad.
You know,
So the
old
thing,
people die and nobody finds them for weeks later.
yeah, and oh God, I know. So there's also like on the Facebook communities, which can be really helpful, I think, and I think there's a lot of people that don't even know about them. Like, there's a lot of really, really helpful Facebook communities where you can connect and find people just like you doing the same thing you're doing, and they're private. No one knows that you're in these groups,
Vital Reset was my very first Facebook group. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, I just didn't know about this stuff. I was offline for a long time. Now I'm trying to regenerate social media for myself, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And then now I'm like a part of all these groups. I'm like, oh my God, how do you have time for all this stuff? And it's super overwhelming. But I was telling my girlfriend in California, who's now a clinical psychologist, and she was familiar with Kelly's work, and she was like, should I do? And I'm like, listen, let me introduce you to Vital Mind Project. She's like, should I get a Facebook account so I could join this group? I'm like, honestly, yeah. There's so much support, and it's this particular kind of support that we need,
Right.
you know, that I need, or I know that she's looking for. And I'm like, honestly, you would be surprised at how much you get. And then when you get to meet people in the real life, like Amarjot and Casey and Sheila and you, by the way, I'm in on the King Spa next time.
Okay, all right.
Get it.
Good.
To meet in person and to carry that relationship through, and to delve off into, you know, your own personal relationships with people is invaluable.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like, yeah, you should join Vital Mind Project. That's it. So she's joining.
Are you going? I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but yeah, Casey's having a baby, and hopefully there's going to be some kind of shower, so we can all meet. Yeah, I know. So, so okay. So another thing I wanted to talk about a little bit about this is because I know you had some ambivalence about even doing this with me, because I
Yeah.
think there's this I mean, I know it's scary to go live and talk about yourself and stuff like that, but I also think there's more to it than just, oh, I'm scared to go live and talk about myself. I think it's
Yeah.
a lot, for me anyway, it's been sort of like this idea of credibility. Like, who am I and what makes me credible? You know what I mean? I was a drunk, a psych patient, a drug addict. I smoked. I did, I just did whatever, sort of just treated myself like a human garbage can for years. And then, so what gives me the right to sort of like go tell people what to do? But here's the thing, a lot of people, they die that way. They die just smoking, drinking, doing all that, and never get beyond or never, heal from it. And there's just something still inside me that's like, yeah, well, if you expose any of this, everybody's going to know what a fuck up you were. The stuff that you were trying to hide all those years.
Right.
And it's like, because I did a lot to hide the fact that I was miserable, And
I think addicts work at that harder.
Right.
For sure.
And to sort of come out and say and go, yeah, I was miserable, is almost like it's validating that part of me that was terrified, to do that. But the thing is like, who is, like, if I'm not credible, then who is? Who, right. I mean, and when is it, like, another question it's like, I'm always like, well, if I was this much better and I was doing this, then I could do this. But when is enough? And how perfect do I have to be in order to say, hey, I know what I'm doing?
Right.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that walking yesterday or today, and I'm like, well, maybe it was today. I was like, well, how good do I have to be to turn around and then help somebody? And
right.
The first thing I learned in the rooms was you can always help the newcomer, even if you have one day more than they do. Mm-hmm. You just turn to them and you just freaking smile at them, and it's like their first day. I remember for me, that meant the world. My first AA meeting, I told them I'm new and I'm supposed to ask for a temporary sponsor. Every single woman in that room came up to me. I will never forget this. Every woman. Some of them had 24 days. Some of them had 14 years. Some of them 20 years. But every woman. And there was about 12 of them. I never forgot that. And I remember one friend who became years a good friend. She had like 60 days more than me or a little bit less. She goes, hi, I'm Becky. I only have 54 days, but I'll be glad to be your friend. We stayed really, really tight for years. And I was like, that's how you do it. But that's how you do it. If I went through something one day more of sobriety than you did, I can at least show you that it's possible, right? I can show you that. And I could be there to hold your hand because I know you're one day more scared than I am. And that's what we're doing here. We're all holding each other's hand. And maybe if I did something, even though I have all of this other stuff to do, but if I did this, why can't I turn around and help you through it? Why can't I turn around and say, it's possible. Just take the next step. I'm right there. Just come to me, And that's all I want to do for people. But it's funny you say that because I had a really long breakfast with my parents. I hadn't been out there in a while and it was overdue. And we kind of got into the weeds a little bit about a couple of things. And she's like, you were always so damn secretive, even when you were little. She's like, and I resent that. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, yes. I didn't realize it growing up. But we had, growing up, I knew we couldn't afford the house we lived in. I knew we couldn't afford the car we had. I knew we couldn't afford this. I knew this all looks like one thing, but on the inside it was different. And we weren't supposed to tell anybody. And it was a fear that they were going to find out, they were going to take the stuff, that we were going to get in trouble, that we were going to burn the house down, we didn't have insurance. Like, I should have known that at 7 years old. At least I don't think so. And but it was always secrets. And to this day, not unlike how we operate. And so it's kind of funny to say I grew up with secrets. I did. So then I started keeping my own secrets. And this book, making the decision to be or create Soul Guide was really hard, because I was like, wow, that means I'm coming out. Like, I'm coming out about my addictions out in public. Like, the neighbors might find out that I'm a recovering alcoholic. That's fucked up. Writing this was really hard, because I was like, once this is out, like, that's it. Anybody can read it. People are going to know. People that I used to work with, because I always kept it a secret. I went to my lunch meeting, 11:30 every day. And nobody asked why. I said I needed to do it for my health, and I came in early every day. And now maybe they'll know, you know? And my first instinct about stuff is to hide. That's still my first instinct. Not if I see someone else in pain, but about me, my first instinct is to close up, you know? And I've been trying to do a lot of like heart opening exercises and meditations and stuff. And I feel exposed and vulnerable. And my parents have yet to comment on it, whether they read it or not. It's been like a month. And it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, my girlfriends, my two besties, they're like, okay, we just read it. And I'm like, all right, should I go hide under the blankets for the rest of my life? They're like, no. They're like, it was a little hard to read as your best friend, but, you know, good for you. But if you can't show yourself, how do you expect anybody else to ever trust you with their vulnerability? You know, and that's all I'm asking, whether I'm working the lights on somebody or whether I'm helping them through elevating their recovery or whatever it is, you know, helping them with their sugar or their caffeine or their helplessness or whatever it is. I'm not a counselor, but I can be there for them. We could sit and make goals. We can make, you know, a strategy, you know, so it was important to do. And so when the email came, do you want in on this book project? I hit yes and enter before I could even think about it. Like that was a no-brainer. I was like, oh, absolutely. Like that was non-negotiable for me, because I knew it was going to help with my healing. And then what's transpired since I said yes to this has been pretty incredible. Personal journey, and you know, it's very healing, and it's so contradictory to everything I know. So talking with you, especially live, what if she asks me a question I don't know the answer to, and people are gonna think I'm stupid? What if my hair looks like crazy, and like, what if my psychic story is silly? No, I'm a Libra. I need people to like me. You know, that's another thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Okay, Breesh says hi. Hi, Breesh. So there's so many people, you know, like you, that have the same story as you, same, you know, everything, and they're waiting to be acknowledged. And it's like, it's up to us to sort of tell our stories so these people can be acknowledged. And it's like, oh my God, that's my story, you know? And they're waiting, just like you were waiting for the light to shine into their hearts. They really are. And that's what I feel like the story in the book is about. It's like, finally, you know, you were waiting, and finally it shined. It was like you opened your heart up and it just came pouring in, you know?
Like, I think, like, what I would say the final message on that is that light, no matter how dark, and I mean, no matter how dark or how old we even are, or what we think we went through and we should already be on the other side, like, I still struggle with darkness. Don't get me wrong. I'm not living in roses and rainbows every day, but there's always that light. And it never leaves us, but it can be very dark. But just to know that it's always there. And if we just reach out and don't shut ourselves in, and sometimes it has to come in the form where we just allow somebody to come in and just pick us up, like literally. But it's always there, and never to give up, you know. But when I came into the rooms, And I got sober, and I would feel that tickle in the belly again. And then I was like, oh, you know what? That light when I wanted to eat the sun, and I would feel so yummy and gooey. And then when I got sober, and I would feel it when I was working with somebody and sharing in that vulnerability. And that soul is lit up, and you allow yourself to be you, and that God force comes in and tickles your belly like that and reminds you that you are love. And that's is the most incredible feeling. And then when I'm doing these light journeys, which we didn't talk about, and I'm working with somebody and I'm taking them on a guided visualization while they're under the lights, my tummy tickles and it feels so good. And it's like the most humbling place that I'm in now as an adult in my current life. And it's so ironic that I've always been interested in light and the sun and that dream and everything. And now I get to take people on these light journeys, and I just love it so much, and I just want to help be a vehicle to help people better themselves, and we could all help each other, and you doing this. And I just want to say, for anybody out there who Rose has maybe asked you to converse with on this, do it, because she's so fun. Super amazing. We had the best time before we went live. We were laughing, cracking up. She doesn't even bite. And she has a lot of mousse in her hair today. And I made her.
Oh, yeah, I have mousse.
But she's so lovely. And we're just talking, And I'm looking a book that you can buy on Amazon.
Oh, yeah, you got the book on Amazon. Yes, Our Transformative Journey on Amazon, available on Amazon. And I wanted to say to you,
the hard copy is coming out in less than a month.
Yeah, but you could get. I think I bought the copy. I bought it on Kindle because I wanted to read it right away.
Oh, thank you.
What?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was, and I've read a lot of the other stories too. I really enjoyed it. I'm enjoying it. But
yeah,
I wanted to say
some events and book signing events, and we're going to be working with the school. And somebody had an auction last night, and I'm doing a thing next week. So we're having fun with it, and we're really getting to know each other as we all live in different places. And it's been a really wild, humbling experience.
Awesome. It's just such a beautiful metaphor for your journey, your life, the light, the sun. Yeah. It's like, wow, it fits you so perfectly. It really does. You're like, I could tell you love the sun. I could tell just by looking at you. And
I do use sunscreen, I swear to God. But I was on the blacktop roof. I get dark.
You're beautiful. It looks beautiful on you. You wear the sun beautifully. You really do.
I love, my mother wouldn't let me wear a bathing suit top till I was like 14 years old. Like, just go lay out on the rock. It'll dry you off and give you color. So since I was little, it's been instilled in me. But why can't I wear a top like the other girls? What do you need a top for? You'll get funny tan lines. This is the TMI. Is that?
Wait, she told you to go topless?
I had to be topless.
Oh my God! I thought you meant like you wore a t-shirt.
Because she's like, we're European. I'm like, but this is Long Island, New York. The neighbors are European. They're like fucking American, dude. Like, and the neighbors they're like, Tamara, what happened to your top? I'm like,
oh my God, that's so funny. I thought you meant like because a bathing suit was too sexy.
No top. And then I would turn around, she'd be lying there topless with her girlfriend doing her nails. All right,
now that is so funny. I was like, oh, your mom was like trying to protect you from and then you're like, no, she wanted me to go naked. That is too funny. All right, I'm going to end it right there. You can find Tamara on soulguide.com, SOLGUID.com, and you can hire Tamara. She does a free consultation, right?
Yep.
And you do Skype.
Lights, a combination. It's good. And looking to partner with wellness centers, with golf centers, with chiropractors. I treat here in my studio. I go out.
Yep.
I do it all, baby.
Golf centers, GOLF, not goth centers like I thought.
I said goth. The Marilyn Manson crowd is
all right. So Tamara, you stay on the line. I'm gonna finish. Oh, there she is in her beauty. I love that on you. All right. It was great talking to you. Bye.